In the brutal winter of 1943, when Budapest trembled under the shadow of occupying forces, Countess Ilona Vasari made a decision that would have been unthinkable to anyone who knew her only as a noblewoman. Her marble-floored palace, envied for its chandeliers and prized art, would no longer be a symbol of aristocratic comfort but a sanctuary disguised so perfectly that even the most cunning Nazi inspector would overlook the truth. She ordered hospital beds brought in, painted red crosses on the doors, and trained her staff to speak in soft, hurried medical tones. Then, with a calm courage that belied the danger, she opened her doors to Jewish children who had lost every safe corner left in the city, promising them protection even as her own life balanced on the edge of discovery from the very moment the first small footsteps echoed through her halls. Every child who entered the palace was given a new identity, a forged illness, and a role in the elaborate illusion of a hospital recovering from an outbreak. The Countess herself designed the stories. 40 children were to be the visible patients, while the rest, hidden in attics, behind curtains, and in abandoned servant quarters, learned to stay silent when boots marched past. She taught them how to cough convincingly, how to breathe as though fevered, how to let their eyes go limp with false exhaustion. To the frightened little ones she whispered that acting would keep them alive, that every pretend symptom was a shield, and that every moment they played their part brought them one step closer to the world that still waited beyond the war. The deception reached its most perilous height when SS officers began making regular visits, suspicious of any activity within noble estates. They enjoyed the Countess's hospitality far too much to suspect she was sheltering the very children they hunted. They praised her for her loyalty, toasted her bravery, and drank tea from crystal cups in her grand drawing room. Meanwhile, just 2 floors above them, a dozen children lay under blankets, pretending to battle imaginary ailments as nurses walked between their beds with worried expressions. Each creak of the floorboards felt like thunder, each whispered breath a risk, yet the children held to their roles with a determination that made even the sternest staff member hide tears behind their masks. On one especially tense afternoon, an SS commander demanded a spontaneous inspection of the upper floors. The Countess, with all the grace that had defined her social reputation, escorted him herself, guiding him into rooms where children coughed on cue, where medical charts hung at the foot of every bed, and where the sharp scent of boiled herbs and vinegar filled the air as if to mask an epidemic. The commander recoiled, muttering that he wanted no part in catching whatever plagued the place, and ordered his men to retreat at once. When they left, the children held their breaths until the footsteps faded, and then the room exhaled as though the palace itself had been waiting to breathe again. Nights in the palace were the most fragile. The children in hiding spaces whispered stories of parents they had lost, of homes abandoned, of siblings scattered like torn pages. The Countess would walk softly through the halls with a lantern, stopping to check on each secret room, offering warm bread and scraps of hope. Sometimes she sat with the older children, listening to their fears, reminding them that courage was not the absence of fear but the quiet, persistent decision to survive anyway. Her voice became the lullaby that steadied their trembling hands and soothed the nightmares that came from the world outside the palace walls. To maintain the illusion of a functioning hospital, the Countess arranged for doctors sympathetic to the resistance to visit the palace. They carried stethoscopes and satchels full of empty syringes, writing reports the Nazis would never read closely enough to see the lies between the lines. These doctors risked their lives as well, forging medical registers, signing death certificates that belonged to no one, and ensuring that anyone who asked would find the hospital sufficiently alarming to avoid unnecessary scrutiny. The children watched them with awe, learning that bravery could wear a white coat just as easily as a uniform. Supplies grew scarce as the war dragged on, and hunger gnawed at the palace like an unseen predator. Still, the Countess refused to turn away even a single child. She sold her jewelry piece by piece, using the money to buy bread and blankets on the black market. Her staff, once accustomed to leisurely mornings and servants of their own, now rose before dawn to smuggle food through the city or wash clothes in freezing water so the children would feel clean, safe, human. Every act of kindness became a small rebellion, every meal a declaration that cruelty would not consume them. One evening, word reached the palace that a Nazi sweep was targeting suspected hiding places across the district. Panic spread like wildfire among the children, but the Countess gathered them in the largest room, speaking with a quiet certainty that steadied even the most terrified among them. She told them that they had survived this long because they had trusted one another, because they had learned to become invisible even in a place filled with danger. She promised she would face whatever came, even if it meant standing between them and the soldiers herself, and her unwavering resolve made the children believe that the walls around them could hold just a little longer. The raid never reached the palace, but the tension that night forged unbreakable bonds between the children and the woman who protected them. From that day, they moved with new discipline, perfecting their roles, learning to freeze in place at the sound of unfamiliar footsteps, and comforting one another when fear threatened to overwhelm them. The palace transformed into a strange blend of childhood and survival, secret games played in silence, laughter muffled behind tapestries, moments of imagination blooming like wildflowers in the ruins of their world. The Countess watched all of it, her heart breaking and healing in equal measure. When liberation finally came in 1945, the doors of the palace opened to reveal over 200 children stepping into a world that had nearly forgotten them. Reporters would later call the Countess a hero, a visionary, a symbol of defiance, but she dismissed the praise with a soft smile, saying only that she had done what any heart should have done. The children she saved carried her memory into adulthood, telling their own families that courage once lived in a palace, disguised as a hospital, hidden behind red crosses and whispered promises. And though the world changed, the story of those quiet halls, where danger walked below while hope lived above, remained a testament to the extraordinary power of compassion in humanity's darkest hour.